Hey guys, Mr. Middleton here. Today we're going to talk about adding and subtracting radicals. At the end of this video, you should be able to add and subtract radical expressions. Alright, so let's go over some radical rules that we've already talked about. Let's simplify. Or some rules, not radicals, I guess. With exponents and variables, we have 2x cubed times 4x cubed. When we simplify this, we do 2 times 2, which gives us 8. Or sorry, 2 times 4, which gives us 8. And x cubed times x cubed, which gives us x to the 6th. Number 2, we have 3x squared times x to the 5th, so I have 3 times that 1, which is 3. X to the 5th times x squared, which gives us x to the 7th. Alright, now when we're adding these, 2x cubed plus 4x cubed, I can add these together because they are like terms, so I get 6x cubed. When I have x to the 5th plus 3x squared, I can't add those together. They're not like terms because they have different exponents. They have the same variable but different exponents. So when multiplying, we can multiply unlike terms. We can multiply unlike terms, different exponents or different variables. And the exponents will will change in your answer. So notice here we had x to the 3rd times x to the 3rd, and that gave us x to the 6th. When we multiplied, the variables could change. When adding or subtracting, we cannot add unlike terms. Can't add or subtract unlike terms, and the exponents will not change in our answer. We simply add or subtract the coefficients. And remember, the coefficient is the number that comes before the variable. Okay? So how does this apply to radicals? It's the same thing. Okay? Radicals and variables will be mostly the same thing. There's one difference. Okay? And so let's do this. We're multiplying. My rule with radicals, inside by inside, outside by outside with multiplication. Okay? So our outsides, 3 and 2, 3 times 2 gives us 6. Our insides, 6 and 5, that gives us 30. Okay, and generally we want to make sure that we are simplified as we can be. There's no pairs stuck in here, and there are not. So 6 radical 30 is our final answer. Okay. Now adding, remember that we need to have like radicals in order to add, or like terms. So we have 3 radical 6 and 2 radical 5. They aren't like terms. They don't simplify or anything, so we just have our final answer would be 3 radical 6 plus 2 radical 5. Not pretty, but our final answer. Number 3, we have 7 radical 3 plus 4 radical 3. Now, these are both radical 3's, so that means we can add these together. So I have 7 radical 3's here and 4 radical 3's here. That means I have 11 radical 3's. That's my final answer. Okay, so notice for number 2, we couldn't put these together because they were different radicals, not like terms. Okay. When multiplying, we can multiply unlike terms, different radicals, and the numbers under the radical will change your answer. Can change, or changes. Let's do that. When adding or subtracting, we cannot or can't add or subtract unlike terms, and the numbers under the radicals will not change in our answer. We simply add or subtract the coefficient. Okay, so notice that this is the same rules as we're using for the variables. Okay, let's look at this. It says find the sum or difference of each radical expression. So we have number 1, we have 4 radical 7, 7 radical 2, 5 radical 7. Well, I see that these two are like terms. Okay, this isn't. So 4 radical 7 plus 7 radical 7 gives me 9 radical 7's plus this 7 radical 2 that didn't have anything to pair with, but it's still a part of our answer. Okay? We have 5 radical 6 minus radical 6. Now this always gets people because they want to write the answer as 5. No. Remember, we deal with the numbers outside the coefficients. What's the coefficient to radical 6? Well, if there's not a number written there, it's 1. Remember, when we're adding and subtracting, our radical doesn't change. It's going to be the same radical. So 5 radical 6 minus 1 radical 6 gives us 4 radical 6. Okay? So this seems pretty simple, but there is a catch. Just a little bit. Okay. Here we have 3 radical 5 plus radical 80. So these are different radicals, or unlike radicals, but I'll call them different. So we can't combine them, right? However, radical 80 can be simplified further. So we must do that before we say we are done. So let's simplify radical 80. Gives us 16 and 5, 4 and 4. And so radical 80 becomes 4 radical 5. And now we have like radicals. So therefore, the simplified answer to the original problem is 3 radical 5 plus what we just changed radical 82 to 4 radical 5, and that will give us 7 radical 5. 3 plus 4 is 7. Okay, when adding, we don't change our radical. Okay, so the difference between variables and radicals is then that x will never become y, but when simplified, two unlike radicals can become the same radical. Alright, so let's try these out. Number 1, we have radical 27 and radical 12. They aren't the same, so we're going to simplify. So radical 27 becomes 3 radical 3. Radical 12, and I wrote that on the wrong line, sorry guys, becomes 2 radical 3. So 3 radical 3 minus 2 radical 3 will give us 1 radical 3, or 1 radical 3. Okay? Radical 25, that simplifies to give us 5. Radical 64, that simplifies to give us 8. 5 plus 8, can we add those two together? Of course we can. They're numbers, we know how to add numbers. It's 13. Okay, radical 18 and radical 36. 9 and 2. 3 and 3. So we have 3 radical 2, and then this would be 6. So 3 radical 2 plus 6, we simplified it, oops, but they're still not the same. So there's our answer. Okay. Alright, a couple more. I'll do 2. I'll leave 2 for you to do. Number 1, I have 6 radical 27. Okay, so now we're simplifying, and 9 times 3, 3 and 3, and so I have 6 times 3 radical 3, which gives me 18 radical 3 for our first term. 2 radical 75, that's 25 and 3, which will be 5 and 3, so I have 2 times 5 radical 3, which gives me 10 radical 3. Okay, we're adding these together, 18 plus 10, 28 radical 3. Okay, so just 2 simplification problems. Add in an addition problem, not too bad. Okay. You can have a similar problem. You have a similar problem like that down here with number 6. So try that one on your own for me. Okay, number 5. I have 3 radical 200. So again, I'm going to have to break down this 200. I know 10 breaks down to 10, or 100 breaks down to 10 and 10. So I have 3 times 10 radical 2. Radical 50. So that gives me 5 radical 2. So now I have minus 6 times 5 radical 2. So what I have here is 30 radical 2 minus 30 radical 2. That gives me nothing. 0. Okay. You have a problem like that with number 7. Try that out for me, okay? If you can do this, you can add, and if you can add and subtract and multiply variables, then you can do the same with radicals. The difference is that we need to make sure that we simplify the radicals to make sure they're not like terms if they aren't in the beginning. Okay? See ya.